Rev up your engines! Okay, in 2019, Toyota started to come back with the Toyota Corolla Hatchback. So we're going to analyze this one here to tell you what kind of a car it is. Good, bad, I'll tell you the truth. Now, they started out with a bad image for one reason. When they first came out, 3,400 of them were recalled and the entire CVT transmission was replaced. Now, most of them were actually never even sold. They were just sitting on the lot, so people didn't even drive them. It was when they changed to that launch gear CVT, so they take off. They had a problem with it, but they replaced 3,400 of them free, and like I said, most people never even owned one. And considering that Toyota has sold over 45 million Corollas, the fact that they had to fix 3,400 of a new design isn't that big of a deal, if you ask me. Now, this one isn't affected by that at all because it is a standard transmission. It's a 6-speed standard, and none of the 2020 up ones had problems with the CVTs. It was only 3,400. That's not a reason not to buy one, because even if you got one of those 3,400, they replaced it with a brand new transmission that didn't have that problem. They had some kind of a design flaw with it, and that doesn't exist in them. So whether you're getting a CVT or standard transmission, it doesn't matter. They're solid, reliable cars like all Toyota Corollas. Now, I find it interesting that they did not call it a Toyota Matrix to bring back the name. You take my 2007 Matrix. Originally, they were called Toyota Corolla Matrixes, and when you look at the shape of it, 12 years later, this Toyota Corolla Hatchback really looks like a modernized version of it. Now, whether you get a standard transmission or a CVT, these things get phenomenal gas mileage. My son's got one. He gets over 42 with CVT. This one's a standard. If you're not driving it hard, you're probably going to get a little bit higher than that. They are fantastic on gas mileage, but with the 6-speed, it's got a lot more zip. There's no arguing that. Now, the CVT version has that launch gear, so it has an actual first gear. So it does accelerate a lot better than most other CVTs, other than Honda, because Honda also has a launch gear on theirs. It's a very similar system, even though they're made by different companies. But this being a standard is a very zippy, fun car to drive, as you'll see in a little while. A lot of technology, but it's Toyota technology. It's a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, and it's got both systems on it. It has both the GDI, that's the high pressure fuel pump for the gasoline direct injectors. But when you look here, you can see it also has port injectors on it too. And to top it all off, the variable valve timing system on it is now electronic and computer controlled, so it's even more responsive. So it's got a complex, but knowing Toyota, very dependable engine. And as we go inside, it's a long way from the early Corollas. Very comfortable seats, nice design. They're also heated seats. We start it up. Of course, it starts right up. It's got all the modern interfaces here. You got all the controls right on the steering column. And with all this leather, it really has a nice style to it. When our kids are young, we drove them around a 4-door Corolla. It had a black and white interior like this. That was about the only similarity. It was a very econo-box car. This is not an econo-box car by any stretch of the imagination. As you can see, decent amount of room in the back. Got the nice comfortable seats there too. And being a hatchback, of course, it has a hatch. Plenty of room here. Drop the seats, and you got a ton of space to throw stuff in. Although, truthfully, in a car this nice, I wouldn't be throwing a bunch of crap in it. I wouldn't be carrying plywood and stuff in it. It's too nice for that. Got great alloy wheels, humongous brakes. My old Matrix, it's got big discs in the back too, not drums. They've gone a long way. Got something hiding in here too. Pedestrian detection, so you don't whack into people. If you're looking at your cell phone, it's going to warn you. And it also has the safety avoidance, all kinds of computer stuff with the camera there. But here's one caveat. Do not follow sand and rock trucks closely, because if a rock hits that windshield and it's broken, replacing that costs a whole bunch of money. So do not drive on old dirt roads with rocks flying all over the place, or you're gonna have an expensive windshield replacement. Many modern cars that way. So you see rocks coming off a truck, either slow down or speed up and go around them. Don't follow them. So let's take it for a spin, see how it goes. Now, the first thing you're gonna notice is not only does it handle quite well, but for a Corolla, it's got a really nice ride to it. My old one in '81 was like driving on railroad tracks. This is not. What happens when you step on the gas? Well, it's got a nice smooth power band. Depending on how high you shift it, you're going to have more acceleration, but it's got plenty of zip. There's no arguing that. Now it has an intelligent manual transmission. Watch this. When you downshift, it's set up so you don't even have to tap the gas. It automatically rev matches by itself using the computer. You don't get any lag whatsoever. And for those of you who've never driven a standard transmission, that makes it a lot easier to learn, and this thing is so smooth anyways, you might think twice about buying an automatic. Because having 6 speeds, you can have a lot of fun. You can get great gas mileage by going in 6th gear at low RPMs, or you can get a lot more acceleration by leaving it up. This thing is so fuel efficient, you're not really going to care about stepping on it every once in a while. That reminds me of a friend of mine in the 60s. He had a Pontiac Firebird with a 4-barrel, and he never stepped on the gas more than 1/3 of the way, because when he went past that, it opened up all 4 barrels, and you get about 4 miles a gallon. You don't have to worry about it in this thing. And of course, it's got all the modern conveniences here. All the apps that you want for your phone. Anything that you really need, you can hook your phone up to. So now you know a little bit more about them bringing back the Toyota Corolla Hatchback. And you know what my big question is? Why did they get rid of it in the first place? I guess they got so carried away with SUVs, they thought, who wants that? Many people want a hatchback. They do everything. You know, you can fit a lot of people in this, and you got a hatch to put stuff in. They're very logical cars. My old Matrix, hey, I have to say that's probably one of the best well-designed transportation devices of all time. And when you're making a hatchback out of a Toyota Corolla, where they sold over 45 million, they've obviously done something right. Now this really has Scotty's approval, because check it out. What does it say in the door? Made in Japan. They do make Toyota Corollas all over the world, in many places. Take my advice. You're thinking about buying one? Look at that door jamb. If it says made in Japan, you're getting the absolutely best made one. And people always used to say, oh, Toyota Corollas, what a boring car. I don't think this thing looks boring at all. So if you didn't know anything about the new Toyota Corolla Hatchback, which they started selling here in the United States in 2019, now you know quite a bit more, so you can make the right decision yourself. Just make sure you look at all of the different attributes of what you want in a car. And if you want what this has, go out and buy it. Yeah, it's not a big SUV. It's not 80 feet up in the ground. But then again, it gets fantastic gas mileage. It's a lot more fun to drive. It's a heck of a lot cheaper to insure. Always check about insurance when you're buying a car too. The bigger the engine, the bigger the vehicle, the more money it costs, the higher the insurance rates. Insurance rates on this thing, dirt cheap. So as far as I'm concerned, a Toyota Corolla now, it's not just a sensible economic purchase. Hey, it's good looking and fun to drive too. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Down to Fish 239 says, Scotty, recently I had my sister's 2013 VW Tiguan S water pump thermostat housing replaced because it was kicking a code saying open thermostat. Hired a mechanic, he did it, installed on the way home, and then he said, now it needs a mass airflow sensor. And he said he fixed it, but now the code's tripped again. Help. The mechanic you took to is either an idiot or a crook, and perhaps both. You didn't have these problems before you took it in, other than it said open thermostat, and the thermostat needed replacing. And those Tiguans are such horrible designs that you got to do so much work to do it, it's insane. Obviously, the guy screwed up the job. Maybe he broke some wiring. Maybe he damaged the airflow sensor. He did something. Now, since you said he replaced the mass airflow sensor and then it came back, I'm thinking that the sensor was okay, or he bought a cheap aftermarket one. You need the Volkswagen one. But more often, the wiring was damaged in the work that he did, and putting a new sensor in didn't fix the wiring problem, and now it's doing it again. My advice, go to another mechanic, have him check. Another mechanic fixes it, take it back to the other guy, make him pay for that bill, and leave it at that. Or make him refund everything you paid him because he didn't know what he was doing. And then he tried to lie to you to say that, oh, well, this broke. Things don't break at the same time. If you have no mass airflow sensor problem, you get the car worked on, it stalls on the way home, which you should have never done. And then he says, well, now this part is bad. That's a load of baloney. Don't let him get away with it. Go to another good Volkswagen mechanic. See what he says. He fixes it. Take it back to the other guy. Make him pay for it. Or get all your money back from the original guy. And if necessary, you might have get lawyers involved. Who knows? But anytime you got a new problem, the minute you drive it back, they didn't fix the problem. And they may have broken something else, especially on a Volkswagen. They're very complex cars. The fact that you can change the water pump and the thermostat at the same time, I would have just changed the thermostat. Why change the water pump and the thermostat? If it's open, it's open. It doesn't mean the water pump is bad. It just means the thermostat's stuck open. It means the water pump's pumping perfectly fine. So the whole thing sounds fishy to me. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.